Hi, everyone. I think I am now live. I'm Jo Mackay. I'm the head of publishing for HQ Books, which is a division of HarperCollins. And for my job, I'm extremely lucky and I get to spend a huge amount of time reading and trying to get wonderful books into the hands of passionate readers like you guys. I'm very, very lucky in that I get to work with some amazing and talented authors, some of whom have been already on this Better Reading Forum, and I will be featuring some of them today. Dear authors, if you are watching, I would love to be able to feature all your books, but that's not possible in the time I have available. So I've pulled out a handful of those authors who have just published or are just about to publish or are still widely available in shops. So the readers who are watching will be able to get them and from Better Reading Online as well. Hello, everybody. So many lovely people dropping in. Sharon, Jill, Kylie, Fazmina, Diane, Christine. Hi, everybody. It's really nice to see you coming up. I'm going to try really hard to respond to as many of your comments as I can. Please forgive me if I miss you or don't respond. They go by so fast. I'll try and keep up. And I'd also just like to say, other than reading books, there's nothing I like more than talking about them with people. So this is kind of a dream gig for me. And I just want to thank the lovely Cheryl and Jane for asking me along to do it. So I'm going to kick off by showing you Better Reading's Book of the Month, which is The Hush by Sarah Foster. I actually read this book in manuscript and I loved it very, very much, but I didn't win it, sadly. But this is a near future thriller that looks at what happens when an epidemic that stops babies surviving birth sweeps the world. Understandably, the thought of no future generations causes chaos and the government instigates a sweeping lockdown. Does this sound familiar? Young pregnant women start vanishing without a trace. If you know Sarah Foster's work, and I'm sure many of you do, you'll know she writes really edgy thrillers, and this is very much that, but with some dystopian elements, which is a bit of a departure for her. It is excellent. I recommend it. It's very much, right way around would be helpful, very much a book reflective of these times. I'm seeing lots of people coming in. Hi, Trisha. How are you? Astrid, Taya. Hi, Taya. Bev. Oh, you've gone beyond my ken now. Oops. Yeah, everyone. So you're all letting me know what you're reading, which is great. Honeybee, amazing book, I think. Kylie, Tennille, you're reading Survive the Night. I haven't read that one. I don't know if anyone else does. That sounds great. Interesting. Outback Secrets. I'm going to talk about that later, Jessie. Michelle's just finished Love Stories by Trent Dalton. Don't you think? And there's Victoria. Hi, all my authors are dropping, which is so nice. So I feel like I'm part of a lovely community here. And you're reading Still Summer by Jacqueline Michard. Jane, wasn't she wonderful? I think the last one I read from her was in The Deep End of the Ocean, but she's a wonderful writer. And Diana's reading Nightingale by Fiona McIntosh, and then The Fossil Hunter. Might be talking about that one later. And okay, oh gosh, you guys are such avid readers. I love watching this. Book of Lost Friends by Lisa Wingate. Elsa Goody Bushranger. Got a new book from Derry coming out any second now. There we go. I'm going to get back to my books or I'll never be able to catch Wildflower Ridge. This is really interesting for a publisher, can I say, seeing what you guys are reading. Anyway, let me move on a little bit. The lovely Better Reading Pro asked me to talk a little bit about how I became a book publisher and whether any particular books had an influence on me. And I don't know that there was ever a conscious decision. I am going to become a book publisher, I thought, when I was 5. But like you guys, very avid reader. And I think there are certain books that you read as a child and as an adolescent that have changed the way you see the world. I'm sure you guys all have those books as well. I'd really love to know what those books were for you. One that made a really deep impression on me was, and I'm sure many of you will have read this, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. by C.S. Lewis, which I read as a kid. When those children opened the door of that old wardrobe in wartime England and ended up in a magical world, that to me seemed like a really good metaphor for what books do for us. You know, they open up new worlds and new ways of seeing the world and take you to a place where you kind of encounter things that change you. So that to me was, you know, a really amazing book to read. And I can see you still, it's coming in. It's reading Debbie McCumber. It's Better This Way. That's Yvonne. Reading The Bookseller's Secret by Michelle Gable. That's Bev. Good. Reading Thursday at Orange Blossom House. That's Jill. And This Much Is True by Miriam Margolis. Oh, I love Miriam Margolis, Laura. Sorry, I'm squinting a bit because I'm on a laptop and it's a long way away for someone very short-sighted like me. So I'm sure your guys. An American Dad. Yeah, that's a quite controversial book actually. So as I got a little older, one of those books that stopped me in my tracks was Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. I'm sure many of you read Jane Eyre because it offered this vision of a 19th century world through a poor governess's eyes and the sense of what it is to be vulnerable and relatively powerless in the world, and you know, a class-ridden patriarchal kind of world, you know, 19th century England, and the way that book is a kind of metaphor for how Victorian England saw women, either the sensitive, virtuous woman or the crazed, bestial mad woman in the attic, and how its voice just kind of transcends all that melodrama and offers this really passionate woman's search for a richer life than a woman of that generation would, you know, of that era would otherwise have been allowed. And that had a really powerful effect on me as a publisher, as a reader. It made me realize that history is formed by those telling the story. And however influenced the narrator's voice was by the context of the time, it still had power because it was an individual's voice and it could surmount that. It was complete. You know, it was very complex and unique. Hello, Christine Portman. You're reading The Spy's Wife, which is great. Alice in Wonderland, what a classic just going back to the children's books, what a classic book that was. So many people were so heavily influenced by that, I feel, that, you know, this kind of crazy view of the world that felt completely natural to children, you know. Hi, Parveen. Hi, Marianne O'Connor. You're just about to read Burnt Out by Victoria Bookman. It's lovely to see you on the forum. Marianne is, of course, one of my authors. Susan Greg Kelly, you're reading The Other Side of Beautiful. Excellent. I'm going to talk about that one a bit later. And The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, Judy. Wonderful book. Britt Bennett really is quite something. Just carrying on a little bit about the last book I promised that changed the way and kind of made me into the publisher I am, was this book. This is Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber. This is a series of dark, twisty fairy tales told from a feminist perspective. And it reframed, for me at that time, all those stories around women. So, you know, and Charlotte's Web, another beautiful children's book. And you're reading The Midnight Library, Darren. That's a cracker as well. So, you know, all those books that you read that change how we see the world. Given the kind of books that I read that had a big impact on me, it's probably not surprising that the books that I love and publish have some of those elements. In particular, I love novels that retell literary classics or events from history from the point of view of women. That's really strong on my list, or, you know, any oppressed voice, really. And in doing so, write those voices back into the stories we tell. And a classic example of that is one of the books that I've published, which is The Good Wife of Bath, Karen Brooks's fabulous Good Wife of Bath. So bawdy and funny and well written. It's a retelling of Chaucer's, and I'm doing that because it's got lovely green foil on it that sparkles when you move. And it just told, so it's Chaucer's The Wife of Bath from the Canterbury Tales, told from the point of view of the wife, Eleanor Cornford. I don't know if any of you guys have read it yet, but it is told from her point of view, and she's married off age 12 to an elderly farmer. And Eleanor realizes very quickly that God is not on her side, or that of any poor woman, but she's a fighter and she's not going to bow meekly to her fate. And what I love about this book is that her voice is so strong and so funny and so kind of, scarbrous about, the men of the time. And it makes her really firmly the subject of the story, not the object. And, she's a maligned character in literary fiction, but she gets a chance to tell it from her point of view. And it's also a really cutting assessment of what happens when the sort of male power at that period runs unchecked. So I don't know if any of you have read that book or are reading that book, but it is, yes, some of you, Rosaline, you really loved it. Trisha, you did. Margie, so you've just finished The Last of the Apple Blossom, which is another one of our books. It's a wonderful book. I hope you really enjoyed that. And yes, I can see some people have certainly read that one. So, carrying on with that idea, I guess, of what we publish and why we publish it, and, the kind of authors we work with, I like book stories that are about women who are determined to pursue control of their own lives. That's a really strong theme running through. And I think I Love History, as you probably gathered. And I think another one of those books that we can see very clearly here is Tia Cooper. And I know that somebody just a little earlier said they'd read Tia Cooper. And indeed, there is Tia Cooper herself popping up in my feed. Victoria, you love The Good Wife of Bath. That's good to hear. Look at our beautiful cover on this one. I particularly love this cover. Tia's books always feature a sort of delicious mix of history and strong female characters who made waves in their time and have got a passion for sort of esoteric knowledge, whether it's like the natural world or poisons or taxidermy or cartography, or, as in our latest book, indeed, fossils. And in this one, the quest to find sea dragons or a species of fossil that once swam in an inland sea is all wrapped up in a mystery where questions from the past, come up and disrupt the present. And we've tried to create a nice fossily effect on the varnish there. I don't know if you can see it through here, but it sort of shimmers and glows and it's quite luminescent. But I know that some of you will have read that. And I see more people dropping in with what they've read. Laurel, you've just started Freckles by Celia Ahern. And yeah. And Darry there, hi Darry, saying that The Good Wife of Bath was wonderful, as indeed it was. I have another wonderful, just trying to find it. There you go. The casual nature of this means that I've actually misplaced a book, but I'll come back to it later. So I do like publishing stories about the lives of the women. And I know that you had Trisha Stringer talking to you very recently, and I know she's watching right now. Trisha's one of my authors, and you probably then know all about her wonderful, warm, witty, wise new novel, Birds of a Feather, set in a small coastal town, featuring the lives of three women who are unlikely companions and who are all thrown together by unusual circumstances, and their feathers do indeed become extremely ruffled. And I think, one of the things I love about Trisha's expert writing is its generosity and the solace it offers to readers when they're sort of navigating life's problems. It's a sort of practical wisdom that I greatly admire, in which Trisha herself is full of. And also, it's such a distinctly Australian voice and a distinctly Australian story. And if you don't believe me, where else would you find a plot point that features a community council argument about the erection of a big plastic prawn? Only in Australia, I feel. Hi, Rachel. Rachel Johns has just appeared. Kylie is asking me, as a publisher, do you have an input in the book's final cover? You better believe it, Kylie. I spend a lot of time writing those cover briefs and talking to authors about what they think, and pulling together. Authors often send me images of the places where these things are set or what they believe in, that they're feeling the atmosphere of the cover. And then we work with a cover designer often we can have 5, 6, 7 concepts and go through round after round to get the right cover. And we really work hard on our covers because we just think they're such a wonderful, selling point and the best way to reach readers who really want to know what the inside of the book feels like on a cover, I guess. It's one of my favorite parts, and often one of the most fraught parts of publishing. Rachel Lismore, you're reading The Island of Missing Trees by Alif Shafak and enjoying it. That's great. I don't know that one, I have to say. I must look that one up. And just skipping down the comments. Okay, so I'll carry on for a little while. So other contemporary book about women's lives I'd just like to mention from our list is Kim Locke's. And someone mentioned this earlier. I think somebody was reading The Other Side of Beautiful area. Beautifully written, utterly charming, gently funny, The Other Side of Beautiful. Our central character in this one, if you can see it well, another bit of bling on it, is Mercy Blaine. And we open the book at her house has just burned down. But that isn't the biggest problem she's got, because Mercy's agoraphobic and she hasn't been outside that house in 2 years, and she's forced to go on a road trip in the company of her sausage dog, Wasabi, and a mysterious box of cremains. And I think what's interesting about this book, in an era of mental health problems are troubling so many in our community, Kim gives us this really deeply compassionate account of how to face anxiety and embrace life, and indeed Dashrams, even if the circumstances are trying. I think a road trip also has huge appeal right now for Australians who've all felt very locked down for quite some time. Just going to pull in a few people who've dropped in. Trish, I think you're reading Songmaster by Di Morrissey. She's always incredibly popular. Annette, you're reading The Peril in House by Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie, do you know, I tend to read Agatha Christie around Christmas. What is that? Because it's got that cozy mystery kind of vibe. Sandra Scully, love The Other Side of Beautiful. Thank you, Sandra. I think it's just such a lovely, lovely book. And, I think it's a book as much about kind of, awareness of the kindness of strangers and serendipity of what lies around the corner as it is about, overcoming anxiety. So I think it's a powerful book in that sense. And Trisha, you enjoyed Traveling with Mercy as well. Tracy, you liked it. Christine loved it. Oh, such lovely feedback. And I think also, obviously, one of the books that a lot of you probably would have read would be Outback Secrets by our lovely Rachel Johns, her new rural romance with a remarkably handsome man on the cover. Where do we find them? He really is rather splendid. And here's our hero, Liam Castle, the owner of a pub in the small town of Bunyip Bay. Liam collides with the delightfully named Henrietta Forward, who lives for her job. And when Henrietta concocts a scheme to ward off her mother's desire for her to settle down, as many of us probably have done in various times, involving Liam and a pretend romance, she thinks she's pulled it all off. And then the pretend romance starts feeling a bit like the real thing, and the trouble ensues. I know that you guys know Rachel is one of the queens of rural romance, and this is a really lovely summer read. And I'm just sorry, I'm catching up with some of your comments, guys. Sorry about this. Jane is asking me, any insight into the big titles you're really excited about for 2022 without giving too much away? There's so many. We have such a brilliant list. We've got a new book coming out from Fiona Lowe in March, which is just spectacularly exciting. We've got a new book coming out from Victoria Perman called The Nurses' War in April. I have a new book coming out from Diane Armstrong in May. Diane Armstrong wrote The Collaborator, and this new book is called Dancing with the Enemy. We've got just all the way through the front half of 2022, we've got some amazing books coming through. Kylie's saying, Jo says she loves Wasabi, the sausage dog. We all love Wasabi. He's a very beautiful little dog on the cover too, on the back cover. Kylie's saying a really great cover, draws in and wants me to make room. Thanks for helping. Oh, that's so nice of you, Kylie. Thank you. That's a very lovely thought. Okay, and talking of summer, which we kind of feels very summery at the moment. I just wanted to draw attention to one last book that's on our list, and then I want to talk about some books that aren't on our list, just to keep, keep it fair. So this new book, Unforgiven, from New South Wales author Sarah Barry. You may know Sarah as a writer of thriller and suspense. This is a fabulous crime thriller. Oops, to hold that up a bit longer and try not to put it in front of my face. Where we meet Lexi Winter. Lexi's the victim of a paedophile, and she has turned a vigilante. She's out exacting her own kind of revenge. And Lexi's sort of in the tradition of troubled, hard-drinking but brilliant amateur investigators. Soda has really come into her own here with a kick-ass heroine who's also an expert hacker. And as Lexi closes in on the spider, a murderous paedophile at large, you're literally on the edge of your seat. It also has a really jaw-dropping start. So if you get a chance to see that, that would be great. Read that one. I think you'll really enjoy it. Just trying to jump through your... Okay, Tracy. Outback Secrets was fantastic, says Tracy Anderson. Isn't that lovely to hear? Cracking book. Love Rachel's book, says Yvonne. Kylie, hoping to start the Outback series Secret 2. I had FOMO about the Outback series reading Ghosts Now. That's Sandra Scully. Oh, that's so nice. I somewhat horrifyingly realized that I have got to 20 past 2 without even touching on half of the things I was going to talk about. So I'm not quite sure how I've managed to mistime myself so very badly. I am going to hold up some of my Christmas recommendations. I read Silence of the Girls. This is a fantastic book. It's just come out, Women of Troy. I'm looking forward to reading that at Christmas. Amazing retelling of a Iliad, effectively. Dark, really, but just spellbinding. You can't put it down. I know it doesn't sound like that, but you can't. Bree Lee wrote Eggshell Skull. This one, Who Gets to Be Smart. Really looking forward to reading that. I read a lot of nonfiction when I'm not reading fiction, because I read a lot of fiction. And that's about the education system. With Eggshell Skull, she did an investigation into what happens when, justice isn't really served, particularly from the point of view of victims of sexual abuse. And this one is about the education system, just sort of carrying on a thread from Victoria Woolf's Room of One Zone. And this book, delightful Christmas read, Mudlarking. Mudlarks are people who go into the mud of the River Thames and find sort of historic artifacts and bring them up, and it's like a microcosm of history, and she's like a cross between a sort of time traveler and Sherlock Holmes and a historical detective. I realize I'm so sorry I'm out of time. I just enjoyed this so much. I can see Diane's looking forward to Sarah Barry's new book. Carly Lane has a new one out at the end of the month. Always a great read, Kylie. Debbie, you just finished Hush, and it was brilliant. You loved it. That's great. And there we go. I think I'm probably going to have to wrap up because I'm nearly at the end of it. Thank you so much, everybody. I hugely enjoyed that, being able to present to you and seeing all your comments and seeing what you're reading. It's always fascinating from the point of view of a publisher. So thank you very much. I better say goodbye because I don't want to outstay my welcome. I've really enjoyed hearing what you're reading. Hopefully I'll get to